Hello, everybody, and welcome to a special edition of Boston Sports Nuts. I'm Paul Izzo, along with my good buddies Jim Russo and Ken Berman.
I would say every episode is special, but go ahead, Paul.
Every episode is special. Well, this is special because we're going to be talking about a sport near and dear to our hearts, baseball, and a team.
Not pickleball?
No pickleball.
Okay.
Even nearer and dearer to our hearts, the Boston Red Sox. And what we're going to do today is we're going to rank the all-time 20 greatest Boston Red Sox players from 20 through number 1. So I'm going to go through real quick the rules of this operation. So each one of us voted anonymously. We sent it to our intrepid producer, Evan, who then proceeded to compile the numbers. And like Ed McMahon on the old Tonight Show, I hold in my hand the envelope. It's been sealed in a mayonnaise jar on Funkin' Wagnall's porch.
And we voted for 25.
We voted for 25 to make sure that we,
Yeah.
you know, so you might not have somebody on your list. Or,
Right.
Hold in my hand
Yeah.
the last envelope.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
Okay. So let's get this started. And it's going to be kind of freewheeling.
Can I ask one question first?
Yes.
Red Sox are near and dear to our heart for sure. At what age did you start following them?
1967. 1967.
65 or 6, I believe.
My dad started taking me to one game a year in 1965.
Nice.
Yeah. So, but
Yeah.
67 was the year where we were glued to a radio.
I went to two
Constant.
games that year. Now, I started in 1966 because I have baseball cards from that year,
Right,
so I must have
right.
been, but I have no memory of that.
Yeah.
What I remember is
They weren't good.
in August of
They were
67,
not.
we went to the Orioles game on a Saturday, and then we went to the October 1st game where they won the pennant. I still can't believe that I got to go to that game.
Wow. Good for
Anyway,
you.
I still have the ticket stub in the program. All right, so let's get started with the list. The top 20. I know you're all excited, and if you're listening or watching,
I'm
feel
excited.
free to disagree. They're free. It's a free country. First Amendment.
Whatever it is, I'm against it.
Okay. The 20th greatest
Groucho.
player in Red Sox history is Mookie Betts.
Wow.
Now, he's a recent Red Sox player.
Mm-hmm.
I personally would have had him a little higher. Jim, some thoughts about Mookie Betts?
I had him at 17, so I'm in the neighborhood. Mookie, great Red Sox player, had a WAR of 42.2, won an MVP, he hit 346 one year, won a World Series, excellent defender in right field who could play multi-positions. And, you know, the Babe Ruth of the 20th century. They traded him, never should have done it. 21st century, never should have done it, and I miss him to this day.
You know what? I didn't put him on I put him in my notables that didn't make the list.
Okay, is that because he didn't have enough time with
Yeah,
Boston?
I just felt like there wasn't enough time with him. It was a short run.
Okay, I had him very high on my list.
Oh, he's a great player.
Very high because he played probably longer than you remember, 6 or 7 years with Boston. And he had a tremendous run in Boston. I think we all agree that if Mookie Betts had stayed on the Red Sox his whole career, he might have pushed
Yeah.
right to the top 3.
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
and
yeah.
he played from 14 to 19, 6 seasons.
So, there's a dynamic player that
Yeah.
we all lost out on.
I miscalculated.
Patrolling right field. That's okay. That's why we have elections.
You know what the other thing about Mookie is? I'm still so hurt that they did it. So
A lot of people are,
it's just
especially when they watch the Dodgers.
And then they go spend the money on Devers. They had 3 guys to choose from, and I think they picked the wrong horse.
Oh,
but-
absolutely. Oh, Betts was the guy if you were going to pay one guy, Betts was the guy.
Number 19, Nomar Garcia Parra, shortstop.
Oh.
I think people forget that until he sort of a sad ending in 2004. He was not the same player after he got hit. So just if you're not familiar with the story, Nomar was the best player on the Red Sox from around 1997 to 2003.
Mm-hmm.
At some point near the end of his tenure, he gets hit on the wrist with a fastball. It sheaths his tendon or something,
Never the
and
same.
he's never really the same hitter after that. And in 2004, in the middle of a pennant race, they trade him
Right.
to the Chicago Cubs in a trade that was shocking, really, to Red Sox fans at the time. But his tenure in Boston, he was a very good player, Jim.
Yeah, I actually had him at 10th. I think he's one of the greatest players in the history. I think he's the starting shortstop almost by acclamation on the all-time Red Sox team. With the Red Sox, he had a WAR of 41.2, which is good, and he slashed 323, 370, 553. That's a top-notch player. He was part of a trioca of shortstops, Alex Rodriguez, Derek Jeter, and Nomar Garciaparra at the time. I think he's an all-time great Red Sox who his fielding slipped at that time period you were talking about, maybe because of the injury. And the trade was made largely for defense, and it worked. It did work because Cabrera was a much better Orlando Cabrera was a much better defensive
great
shortstop.
player. Talking about those three shortstops, at one point, he was considered the best out of those three at 1 year.
Yeah.
There was the argument that he was the best out of those three at a certain couple of years. That he had done.
I think his peak was substantially higher than Derek Jeter's. His peak performance.
I mean, he
not his
flirted
career.
with 400 for a long time 1 year, didn't he?
Yeah. He didn't walk as much as we all would have liked. You know, his on-base percentage was only 40 points higher than his batting average. Guys, remember in the 90s, I wrote for Mass Live. I wrote about baseball. I was a columnist for them. And when Nomar came up, he was very good right away. And I said in one of my columns that let's hope he doesn't become one of those Red Sox guys who's disgruntled as he gets closer to free agency. He was.
Kiss of death.
He was. He got a little bitter, and I don't think that helped his situation in 2004.
Well, he got bitter because the Red Sox made a trade that was nullified by the Players Association, which was Nomar for
Alex Rodriguez.
Alex Rodriguez. John Lester would have gone in that. Oh, no, he was in the Manny trade. But Manuel Ordonez was in that trade and someone else. So he got bitter because they were going to replace him with A-Rod.
Yeah, yeah. But they did at some point offer him 4 years, $15 million a year.
They did.
And he did not take it.
He didn't
Anyway.
want to stay
I
there.
believe they did.
Okay.
Hey, and they won a World Series after they made that trade.
Yeah. No, we're not arguing with that trade.
Yeah.
All right.
No, not at all.
Number
I know, yeah.
18, former first base coach in the 1967 Red Sox, Mr. Bobby Doerr.
Yeah.
Now, Bobby Doerr is one of those forgotten stars,
Right.
but he was a big time player. He played in the 1940s in that great team that the Red Sox had with Ted Williams and Dom DiMaggio and Vern Stevens and all these other guys. I'm not sure Vern Stevens was on the team yet. Maybe I'm wrong there. A great player. Was a great ambassador for the Red Sox. Lived a long life.
A long time.
He was around until recently.
Yeah.
One of the last Red Sox players of the 1940s to pass away. Bobby Doerr, great selection. In the argument for all-time best Red Sox second baseman. Definitely in the argument.
Definitely.
Yeah, I had him at 21,
Yeah.
which is right. He played from 37 to 44, then 46 to 51, interrupted by World War II.
Yep.
He won in, I'm sorry. He had a WAR of 51.5, which is pretty good, but he was a 9-time All-Star.
Yeah.
And was one of like 3 to 4 numbers that were retired for a long time until some of the others got. So yeah, definitely, and no problem.
I had
with
him at
being in the
20.
top.
Some of these guys from that team, if you take that team that never won a World Series, but back then you had to win the pennant to even get to the World Series.
Mm-hmm.
I would say if those teams had some type of playoff
Yeah.
situation like now, they would have won a World Series or two with those guys.
They might have.
And he was one of their cores for sure.
Yeah.
And he's in that group that when I was growing up, my dad and his friends talked about those guys.
Yeah. A great player, no question. All right, number 17.
John Havlicek. Oh, wrong sport.
Dustin Pedroia, another second baseman. How
baseman.
ironic. In one of our other shows that we did a few weeks ago, we talked about Red Sox players that come up and they don't necessarily get off to a good start. And at what point do you make a change? Dustin Pedroia, an extraordinary example of that. He couldn't hit his weight for the first few weeks when he
2
came
months
up.
almost.
But the Red Sox stuck with him. Terry Francona stuck with him, said, I believe in this kid. A real character. He liked to get to the ballpark 8 hours before the game,
Right.
which means that on Patriots Day, he would get to the ballpark at 3 a.m.
So he's a little crazy is what you're saying, too.
Yes. Obviously, career shortened by injury, but a great player while he was there. Ken, why don't you go first?
Well,
on this one?
Mr. All-Out Hustle on the baseball field, too. I mean, he Was he part of the Dirt Dogs or that whole thing
Yeah.
too? I mean, he just went after everything, dove for everything, but really big time in the clutch, good fielder. I just remember going to a playoff game against Cleveland. It was, I guess, in the ALCS, if I'm not mistaken, and the game was sort of close. Maybe they were up 2 or 3, and he hit a bomb. And I just looked at him and go, he's my size.
Yeah.
And he just hit a bomb over the left field fence, over the screen, over everything.
You still remember it.
I still remember it. So.
Yeah, I have Pedroia at 20, and I have him over Dorr. He's my all-time Red Sox second baseman. Played from 06 to 19, 51.9 WAR, MVP, Rookie of the Year, and everything you guys said about hustle. So he's 20 for me and my starter on my all-time Red Sox team.
Number 16, Lefty Grove. Okay. What he did in the 1930s,
Yep.
in an era in which there was a live ball. The 30s are a notorious decade in baseball history, very distorted stats, different theories about how it happened. It was a real live ball era. He was the dominant American League pitcher of the 1930s. Started his career with the Philadelphia A's, came to Boston and had a terrific run. Never made it into the postseason. The Red Sox never did in the 30s. But look him up. I mean, he won multiple ERA titles in a row.
Yeah.
Just a tremendous competitor. What can you say? I mean, Lefty Grove. I personally had him higher, but
Okay, I have him at 18, and the reason I have him lower at 18 is that his best years were with the Phillies. I think that's unquestioned.
athletics.
You're right, athletics. Sorry about that. His ERA with the Red Sox was 3.34, which I get the dead ball thing, but when we get to
A live ball.
a live ball. Jeez, what am I doing? But when we get to another pitcher who pitched in the steroid era, he won 4 ERA titles with the Red Sox. His 105 wins, a 10th with the Red Sox. And he had a WAR of 42 with the Red Sox. I definitely think he's top 20. I think there's a pitcher earlier than him, actually 2, that rate higher than him as Red Sox, but probably not as all-time players, because we could do a whole nother 5 minutes on Grove's accomplishments with the Athletics.
Yeah. No, great. I read some stats about it. Incredible. I mean, because when we do a list like this, then you have to start reading about these guys again. And you're right, his stats were incredible. I had him at 20, but
Yeah.
and I think partly some of that happens with me because it was so long ago, and I'm reading about him, but I don't have the connection sometimes with the play.
Yeah,
You know what
but
I mean?
I think that's around right. I mean,
Well, it's just a side conversation for a second. When you're doing an all-time thing, you really have to
right.
try
I
to
tried
give
to.
credence to the.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you didn't.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you didn't. But it's hard to not have recency bias.
Yeah.
To,
I just
to look at these guys. And there's also that tendency to think, well, the game's better now. The athletes are better. You know, if the guy wins 5 or 6 ERA titles, he was a damn good pitcher.
Yeah.
I don't care what anybody says. All right.
By the
Okay.
way, just quickly, what
Yeah.
what kind of team did they have in the 30s when he was pitching at his height
A decent competitive team that just wasn't good enough.
to win the pennant? You
Yeah.
had to win the pennant
Had to win the pennant.
to
Yeah.
play in the World Series.
Yeah.
Amazing where we've come.
Yeah, it's amazing. Okay. Louis Tiant.
Ooh-wee.
Okay. Number 15, Louis Tiant.
I got him. Oh, I'm sorry.
Jim?
Oh, sorry about that.
Okay.
I got him at 19. He played from 72 to 78, 35.4 WAR, 320 game win seasons. To me, it was very hard. I guess this is why I wanted to go first, because I want to acknowledge what you just said, which is that it was very hard to rate him at 19 for me. I would have rather him be much higher, but I had to go with the stats because watching Louis Tiant pitch was so much fun.
Yep.
And I had to go with the stats. But as far as watching a guy pitch,
Oh.
maybe other than the guy we'll get to later, he's just so much fun. His World
yeah.
Series burning the bases was worth the price of admission.
Yeah, Louis was
Another
like
clutch pitcher, too.
Yeah, Louis was one of the great ones to watch of all time. The most, I know who you're going to for other,
Yeah.
to watch too. But no, Tiant's way up there. I had him in the middle of the pack.
Yeah, well, Tiant's most famous performance was in the World Series when the Red Sox really needed a win in Cincinnati. He just pitched the whole game, 154 pitches.
Yeah. Incredible.
I mean, amazing. That the other big win in Louis' history, which a lot of people forget about, was they had this 14-game lead, 10-game lead in 1978, which they gave up to the Yankees. They had to win Sunday to get the playoff game.
Right.
Louis pitched and won that game, and that was a tremendous performance.
By the way,
out of the playoff game.
His kid was one of Peggy Cooper's. She worked at a school system as a guidance counselor, and Louis' kid went to that school, and she worked with that family a lot.
Yeah, I had many conversations with Louis. I saw him at a Red Sox fantasy camp. I saw him down at Fort Myers. He used to sit outside Gate A or whatever it was, selling Louis Tiant sausages.
Yeah.
Just a great ambassador for the Red Sox. Okay, number 14, Carlton Fisk, the catcher.
Pudge. We call him
Pudge. A Vermont, New Hampshire guy, depending on how you look at it. There's different theories about where you say he's from, but a great player. Had a lot of great years with a team other than the Red Sox.
Yeah.
But in the 1970s, he was a star player for Boston. Battled some injuries. Obviously hit the big home run in the 1975 series. It's funny when you go through the Red Sox history. Not a lot of catchers. Not a lot of great catchers in Red Sox history.
I can think of two.
I tried to figure out a way to get Russ Gibson on this list, but he didn't quite make it.
Coached his nephew.
Jim?
Fisk, yeah, he's the only catcher on the list. 69 to 80, 39.5 WAR. He's got the famous home run in the World Series. 7-time All-Star. I think when he played, he was kind of like the heart of the Red Sox. I mean, who could forget the Munson-Fisk fight?
Yeah.
The whole Red Sox-Yankee thing was, at that time in the 70s, was embodied by Fisk and Munson to me. Munson, another great player, by the way, who died tragically in a plane crash. But Fisk, to me, just all-time Red Sox catcher, and just another thing, if you're a Red Sox fan, virtually unexplainable how they could let, as Paul said, New Hampshire, Vermont guy go when he was still very good, and went on to have a great career with the White Sox.
Yeah.
It's almost like Mookie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a shame.
I had him even a little higher at around 10 because I took into account he played a lot of years for the Red Sox and then was great for his second team for a lot of years. So I went with the theory of player.
Okay.
And he played enough here to me that I could bring in his White Sox career too. So
Yeah. Well, an interesting guy, Carlton Fisk. I think he's kind of embraced his Red Sox legacy a little bit more in retirement. You see him around. All right, number 13, lucky 13. A player that I know Ken used to follow very closely, Tris Speaker.
I did
from the early 20th century.
Tell us why, Ken. You follow him.
You know what? I got nothing to say about Tris. Go ahead, Jim.
Oh no,
Paul.
Tris Speaker was
Really? I'll say something about Tris
Jim,
Speaker.
go ahead
Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
I have a lot to say.
I had Tris Speaker at 8
Yeah.
myself. Had a WAR of 55.7.
I had him a little low at boys, just
In-
to
in
say,
the
but
war-
I don't know enough about him. That's why I said
This
that.
is a 2-time World Series champion with the Red Sox.
Yeah.
His slash line for the Red Sox is very impressive. 337, 428, 463.
Wow.
An excellent defender. Speaker was a very good center fielder.
Played very shallow.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of the first Red Sox true stars. I got him in the top 10. I've seen lists where he's even higher.
I've got him at 9.
Okay, so we're right there. I got him at 8, so we're basically in agreement. Well-deserving top 10 player to me. And where do we have him again? I'm sorry.
13.
Yeah, it's a little low for me.
Little low.
Little low.
Little low. All right, number 12. David Ortiz. Interesting. I had him. I'll start off.
Yeah.
I had him way higher.
when we did our Mount Rushmore show, I thought Ortiz was in the running to be on Mount Rushmore for the Red Sox because I'm talking about as the Red Sox representative,
Right.
sole representative over Williams, because I don't think any Red Sox player ever has embodied and embraced his role as leader of the Red Sox like David Ortiz. We can talk all day about numbers and where he ranks, and he's only a DH, which I think is not a big deal. He could have played first. He would have been adequate. But his clutch hitting, his dynamic play, this is our bleeping city, the whole thing. His last season was like a Hall of Fame season.
Amazing.
2017, it was outstanding. He could have kept going if it wasn't for his feet, which he said just
to play
took
each
him
game
2.5 hours to get ready.
For the game.
So just a great guy. The whole Big Papi thing, I had to love it. He's not really been replaced. Maybe can't be replaced.
He's just a great hitter. I mean, he had a stretch for how many years with the Red Sox where he was just one of the best and most feared hitters in the league, I think.
Yeah, Joe Torre used to say, I just don't know how to get this guy out.
Yeah, this was absolutely, for me, the toughest player to rank. He's got a 52.7 WAR, 10 All-Star games, 3 World Series. But the impact of David Ortiz is breaking the curse. Without him, forget it. The clutch hits, the home run against the Yankees, everything. The ridiculous last World Series he played in where he was almost impossible to get out.
Yeah.
I really struggled with this. There are players the Red Sox have had that are better all-around players. He could have played first, but I don't think he would have been a Gold Glove player like another player we're going to get to who I rated high because of his defense. I ended up putting him at 3 because of the impact and winning the World Series. And, others didn't get that. Like Ken pointed out, they didn't get the opportunity. But he was the most difficult player to rank for me.
All right, now number 11. Oh, this pains me because I do not like this guy, Manny Ramirez. Okay? Can't deny his offensive output. Yeah. Can't deny it. But I'll tell you what I'm struggling with. In 2008, the Red Sox had a chance to repeat. They had a great team. And he quit on them. He flat out quit on them. Refused to come off the bench. Refused to be a good teammate, whined about the fact that his contract hadn't been extended, basically forced to trade at the deadline in August to go to the Los Angeles Dodgers, where he proceeded to have maybe the greatest month of his career.
Yeah.
And the Red Sox end up in the ALCS, losing in Game 7 to Tampa Bay. Unforgivable sin. Great player while he was here. Great player.
I had him at 11. Which is where he is, right? Yeah.
That's what I had him at, too.
All of that's true. All of that's true. However, he is probably the best right-handed hitter maybe I ever saw, and probably the best right-handed hitter in Red Sox history. And the combination of David Ortiz and Manny Ramirez is Ruth Gehrig-like. And that's a case where people might have romantic memories of Ruth and Gehrig. Let me tell you, Big Papi and Manny for their generation, you're not going to top that. I'm sorry.
They were.
So I actually decided before this, when I started ranking, not going to take steroids into account.
Same here.
Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not going to take off the field into account, and I'm not going to take any of that. And that's
I didn't either.
That's why I put him at 11.
Yeah, same here. He's
So
devastating. When he wanted to play, like you said, and he was into it, you couldn't get him out if you needed to. Incredible.
Yeah.
Great swing. How many years in a row did he bat over 300? Seemed like it.
One of the interesting things in my memory, not looking at stats, is they had both Ortiz and Ramirez had iconic hits. Ortiz had that classic bomb home run to the bullpen. He hit the one against Detroit.
Yes.
That was a grand slam with the cop and the outfielder falling into the bullpen. But Ortiz also had that left field single.
Ramirez.
No, Ortiz had that left field single. Manny had some hits. Inside, he could fist a single really well if he tried to bust him inside.
Manny's 2 classic hits to me were right center field, and I never saw a player, right-handed hitter, pull a ball so pure as Manny.
Right.
Yeah.
Just on the screws, as they say, and he hit that 501-foot homer over the wall once. Just
Yeah, incredible.
and
incredible
also
hitter.
the only outfielder that I've ever seen who cut off a throw
Yeah,
from a
from center
fellow
field.
outfielder.
From Johnny Damon.
Yes. Got
Yeah,
to
that
give,
was
Forgot about
interesting.
that one.
gotta give
That was
something for
interesting.
that.
All right, now we're going to get to the top 10. Number 10,
Wow,
Dwight
I
Evans.
got more than 10 left.
Dwight Evans.
Can I go first? on
Yeah.
that? All right. Dwight Evans was another one I struggled with a long time in whether to rate him over certain players, and I eventually decided to do that, although I had him at 14, so you guys obviously rated him higher. But the reason I did that, 66.6 WAR, that's really good. A very good offensive player, and 8 Gold Gloves playing the toughest right field in baseball. I think that's worth something. I know offense is more important at the end of the day, but I think playing right field at Fenway to that degree, and also had an incredible arm, and it was ironic thinking back at it. Dwight Evans did not have the best arm in right field in baseball during his beginning of his career because it was Roberto Clemente, but that's not taking anything away from Dwight Evans. When Clemente eventually, unfortunately, had his tragic ending, Evans had the best arm in right field. Great Red Sox, and that's why I put him as high as I did.
Love Dwight Evans. I had him at 13. It could have been higher. I struggled myself of where he was going to go.
Yeah.
Also, one of those guys you loved because he was there every year when the Red Sox started the next season. I think we can all remember the year he hit the first pitch over the fence for a home run.
That was the year they won the pennant.
Yeah. But is he the best defensive outfielder they've ever had?
Well, I don't know that because I don't know the defensive stats for the
but
early
he's
days.
up there, right? I mean,
Tris Speaker was a great
Yeah.
outfielder.
Fred Lynn was a great outfielder.
I-
Yaz, great
I just
outfielder.
want to
Yes.
I want to give you a heads up that I'm going to go off a little bit on this. I think Dwight Evans is the most underrated professional athlete in the history of Boston sports. I think Dwight Evans had a magnificent career. The 66 WAR is very high. If you don't know anything about WAR, that's very high. Dwight Evans was arguably the best Red Sox, the best American League offensive player of the decade of the 1980s. But I'm going to steal something Bill James said about Dwight Evans. The problem the public had with Dwight Evans is that unlike almost every great player in baseball history, his first 10 years were not as good as his last 10 years.
Right.
He came up in the early 70s. There was a crowded bunch of stars. You had, in the early days, you had Ogilvy, you had Cecil Cooper, then you had Lynn Rice, you had all these other guys. And Dwight Evans was kind of lost in that. He was an average offensive player. He made that sensational defensive play in the World Series in 1975, which Cincinnati Reds players said, I had no idea how he caught that. The reason he caught the ball was he saw that the catcher called for a curveball, which meant, maybe Joe Morgan's going to pull it if he catches up with it. He drifted back toward the right field line, and the minute the ball was hit, he raced to the outfield wall and made the greatest World Series catch probably any player's made in a Red Sox uniform. I just think he was a fantastic player. And then Walt Riniak comes along, and he screwed up a lot of players, but whatever he did with Dwight Evans turned him into a dynamic offensive player who walked, who hit homers, who was clutch. And Jim's already pointed out, 8 Gold Gloves. Come on, that's ridiculous.
In that right field.
Right.
In
The
that right
fact
field.
that Dwight Evans is not in the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame and Phil Rizzuto
crime.
is, who come on, Phil Rizzuto, look it up, is criminal.
Holy cow.
But that's just, Dwight Evans should be in the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
But I met him once at a Patriots game, and I told him that, and he said, "Nah, it's no big deal." Maybe he was lying, but he didn't seem too upset about it.
I just find his career amazing, and what you said, it took him a few years to become a good hitter.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, he became a good hitter.
Number 9, not Ted Williams, Jim Rice. Number 9. Interesting that he was number 9.
Jim Edwards.
Jim Ed
Yeah, right.
Russo. Go first.
Okay. This was my struggle, and I actually rated Evans over him.
So did I.
But Jim Rice had a great career with the Red Sox, lifetime Red Sox, 74 to 89. His WAR was 47.7. Jim Rice in 1978 won the MVP. He had one stat that's really incredible. He got a 400 total base season, which is very rare.
And no one else did it for like 40 years.
For a long time.
Yeah, finally somebody
lifetime
did it.
slash of 298, 352, 508. Great hitter, power hitter, as strong as they come. I mean, we saw him break a bat on a check swing. Incredible strength. And I also give Jim Rice a lot of credit when he came up. Wasn't the greatest defensive player, but the stories have now come out. Johnny Pesky, the late, great Johnny Pesky, would go out there and hit ball after ball after ball to Jim Rice, off the wall, everything else. Rice worked. He could have gone out there and lived on his offense. He would have got paid on his offense. He would have had a highly successful career. I give him a lot of credit for becoming a good left fielder and working that hard. So he deserves his spot.
One of the all-time favorite Red Sox for sure. I had him at like 7 because I just thought he was the most dominant right-handed bat.
He was.
For a good 5+ years in the American League, or probably in baseball.
He was an MVP.
Yep.
And by the way, I never saw anybody hit the ball as hard as he hit it sometimes.
Yeah, he could slam it. The reason Jim Rice isn't rated higher is as he got older, he got banged up.
Yeah.
At the end of his career.
And he dropped off quickly.
At
Yeah,
the end
he
of his
did
career.
drop
Fell off
There was
the
some,
cliff.
Yeah.
at the time, people said it was his vision
vision,
and other things, but, a great Red Sox
Well, I think
player.
he said it was his vision too. If I
Yeah,
remember
as,
correctly.
we all admire. All right, number 8, Jimmy Fox, double X. Jimmy Fox was a tremendous hitter. I remembered this quote, and then I Googled it to see if I was remember it correctly. And it was in there. Online. Ted Williams rated him as the best right-handed hitter he ever saw. Just a dominant, tough power hitter of the 1930s. Again, started his career elsewhere, had other great years with another team, but just, sensational Red Sox player.
Yeah, Jimmy Fox played from 36 to 42 with the Red Sox.
Yeah.
His WAR was 32. He had a career slash line with the Sox of 320, 422, 605. That's really good.
That's ridiculous.
He was an MVP for the Red Sox. I had him at 9, which is, rounding error, as they say in polling. I think he's right where he should be for the Red Sox. And just a great Red Sox, and he deserves a spot.
Yeah, I had him a little lower, but when I thought of home runs when I was a kid, I thought of Jimmy Fox, and he just seemed to hit a lot of them, or I heard he hit a lot of them, or something like that. But just great player for the Red Sox.
He died during the pennant race in 1967, ironically.
Did he?
Okay, number 6. This is an interesting selection. Babe Ruth. So for those of you that don't know, when Babe Ruth played with the Red Sox, he was a pitcher primarily. He did play in the outfield occasionally, but he was not just any pitcher. He was probably the best pitcher in the American League for the time he was in the Red
I had
Sox
him way
uniform.
higher, and I'll get to that later.
Okay.
But I had Babe Ruth way higher because, first of all, he had a great career with the Red Sox. I think he won 3 World Series with them.
Mm-hmm.
He was the dominant pitcher. He was hitting a little bit at that time, too. They saw the power. But I'm taking into account him as considered by a lot of people the greatest baseball player ever.
Okay.
So I took that into account.
So he goes off the reservation, taking into account.
Yeah, I did not
other
take
stuff.
that
We're gonna-
into
it-
account.
he's gonna have
I
to-
did not.
Well, Babe Ruth, though.
I understand. No, I get what you mean.
Yeah, you rate him how you want. I did.
Babe Ruth.
Okay, I did not do that. So
Lived in Sudbury.
That's right.
So let me. I will rate George Herman Ruth. I had him at 13. He played from 14 to 19, I think, and I have 18, but I'm pretty sure he played one more year. Had a WAR of 39 with the Sox. He had 49 home runs with the Red Sox.
By the way, that's a very high total.
Very high for that.
In the
Right.
teens.
Yes.
Right. 'Cause
Yeah.
That was
You
dead
led the
ball
league
era.
with 10
Right.
homers.
Right.
The other thing about Babe Ruth, for a long, long time, Babe Ruth had the record for consecutive scoreless innings in the World Series as a pitcher. So I had him at 13. I have another pitcher higher than him. I actually have 1, 2,
Three.
3, 4. I actually have 4 players on the Red Sox pitchers higher than Babe
I don't know
Ruth.
who the fourth one is.
I think he's. I can't put him that high, Ken, for his Red
That's
Sox
okay.
performance.
You don't have to.
I can't.
It's all right. All right, number 6, Denton True Young, also known as Cy, short for Cyclone, the dominant Red Sox pitcher of the first decade
Yep.
of the history of the Boston Red Sox. Played with the Red Sox in the aughts, 1901 time frame. Was on a couple of World Championship teams. Red Sox got cheated in 1904. The other
They might
New
have
York
won that
Giants
one,
wouldn't
too.
play him. I still say we should raise a pennant to that one.
Always said that.
Yep. Jim, why don't you go first? The
Okay.
award is named after him. By the way, he holds the world record for losses with 300-plus losses.
Yeah, you got to be good when they name the pitching award after
Right.
you.
Yeah.
But 01 to 08, 66.7 WAR, very good. 192 wins, tied with one other pitcher for the Red Sox record. Dominant pitcher of the aughts, as you called it. I had him at 7. Again, rounding error, I'm fine with 6. Just great Red Sox, deserves everything, and hey, Cy Young Award.
Yeah. These are the numbers you start running into, like, who's this, where, blah, blah, blah. But the award is, he won 511 games. People don't even pitch 511 games. I
Yeah.
mean, he won 511 games, but 192 of them with the Red Sox.
Yeah.
I had him at 8.
Yeah, he did pitch in the 18th century also, or the 19th century,
Yeah,
the 1800s also.
Yeah.
And, he lived a long life.
Did he?
I think he was around, in the television era and was interviewed. There's some old clips of him being interviewed.
Wow.
Yeah, lived a good long life. God
the
bless
Cy
him.
Young Award.
Cy Young Award. Number 5, Wade Boggs, or as Sam likes to say, Wade versus Boggs, the famous lawsuit.
Right. Wade.
I'm going to start with him. He's one of my all-time favorite Red Sox players. I had him 3rd. One of the things that happened to Wade Boggs is he played in the early days of talk radio in Boston. Eddie Andelman was the dominant talk show host, and Eddie Andelman did not like Wade Boggs. Always complained that he didn't drive in runs, didn't hit for power. Eddie, I love you. Wade Boggs was a leadoff hitter. He usually came up later in the game. So in the first inning, there's no one on base. And later in the game, there was usually nobody on base because for most of his time with the Red Sox, they didn't have a good player batting 8th or 9th. So that's why he didn't have a lot of runs batted in. But he scored a ton of runs. He was always on base. He walked. He got doubles. He got singles. He was the dominant offensive player of the Red Sox in the 1980s and impossible to get out. He also became a veteran fielder, worked very hard on his fielding.
Yeah, another
I don't know
guy
what to
whose
say about him.
fielding improved. He won a Gold Glove with the Yankees.
Yep.
I had him at 6, 82 to 92. I've always said about Wade Boggs, he was about 10 years too early. If he played in the analytics era, Wade Boggs might be the highest paid player in baseball. I think one year he hit like 360 with 100-something walks. It's ridiculous.
He had 26 home runs one year.
It was not appreciated at the time. Now it would be. His slash line for the Red Sox, 338, 428, 362, 5 batting titles, WAR of 71.9. I had him at 6. 5 is fine with me. He's one of the greatest Red Sox of all time. He's the starting third baseman on the all-time team. Nobody even close. I feel he was very underappreciated. And one last thing about Wade Boggs, he got to the majors too late. He was hitting 300 in the minors. They said, he doesn't hit
He
home
was hitting
runs.
340 in the minors.
He doesn't
Yeah,
hit
they-
home runs. He doesn't do this. He doesn't.
Carney Lansford gets hurt. That's the only
Ridiculous.
reason he comes up.
Right.
And then what did
we
Lance-
had this conversation the
Boggs
other day on the
played
phone.
first, I think, for a little while.
Yeah.
So Lance,
Yeah, I had him lower. I liked him. I didn't love him as much as you guys.
Oh,
But a great player. He was always on base. He was always hitting the ball. Too many pop-outs to left field for me sometimes, but I don't know. That was just me.
You don't like a 428 on base percentage?
I do.
That
I do.
leaves you cold? Okay, interesting. All right.
yeah, that's almost 1 out of 2.
Right. Number 4, Pedro Martinez.
Who? Oh, Pedro Martinez.
My lasting impression of Pedro, and I was talking to some Cape Cod Baseball League officials about this, I saw him pitch a lot of games live. The ball looks small. Don't ask me to explain it. I can't explain it, but when he would release the ball and throw it to home plate, it looked like a golf ball. He was dominant. His velocity was very good, not amazing. His location was unbelievable. He pitched inside. He had breaking pitches that he threw right at the right time. In his prime, he might have been, for that short period of time, late 90s, early 2000s, the greatest pitcher that I ever saw. When they finally started winning in 03 and 04, made it to the ALCS, won the World Series, that was not the best Pedro.
No,
the
it
best
was
Pedro
not.
was a little before that.
Yep.
But even in 03 and 04, he gave it everything he had. And, he was special. Very special.
Yeah, very. I think this is the other guy you're talking about watching that's fun,
Yes.
maybe? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Louis and then Pedro. But Pedro was great because I never saw such ball movement on pitching.
Yeah.
It just seemed like it went this way, that way, up, down. And you just had a guess, I think, if you were a batter. Your best chance was taking a guess and see if you could hit it. One of the great all-time pitches to me in my lifetime.
Pedro. Let's talk about Pedro. 53.5 WAR, 4 ERA titles with the Red Sox, 2 Cy Youngs. Pedro Martinez had 3+ pitches. Okay, fastball was a plus that they call. Curveball was a plus. Changeup was a plus and was devastating.
Yes, his changeup was amazing.
Okay. They use the term disappear now for splitters. His changeup disappeared. Okay.
What's the fourth one?
No, I said he had 3+
Oh,
pitches.
3+
He had 3,
pitches. I'm
which
sorry.
most guys have. A lot of guys have 1,
Yeah.
Or
and they
don't
get
have
by
one.
with 2.
Right.
And some guys have 2, which is considered great. He had 3.
3, yeah.
Okay. To me, his 5-year period before the decline or whatever, peak-wise, he's the greatest Red Sox pitcher of all time. Peak. So my second biggest struggle behind where to put Big Papi was to distinguish between Pedro and the other guy who's coming up. And I actually picked Pedro over him for one reason. Pedro did it in the steroid era. The numbers that players were putting up on offense during the steroid era distorted the Major League Baseball record book, never to be, unless something else comes along. The records don't mean what they used to. While this was going on, this guy was pitching under 2 ERAs.
Yeah.
If you looked at the time, at his ERA and the next guy, it was a wide gulf, okay? The only comparable thing, which was even bigger, was the gulf between, at that time, Tiger Woods and the number 2 golfer, which incredibly was even bigger, okay?
Yeah.
Was even bigger. But that's why I rated him as the number 1 Red Sox pitcher of all time.
Did he ever have a season where his ERA was under 2
Yeah.
for the whole season?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
In the
Yeah.
steroid era.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
Number 3, the Rocket, Roger Clemens.
Because I just talked about him. Can I
Yeah.
go first if you don't
Yeah.
mind? I just want to segue to why I picked him. That was to finish my thought here, that it was between Pedro and Clemens. Clemens was awesome for 84 to 96. A tremendous 80.8 WAR for a pitcher. That's phenomenal. 3 Cy Youngs, and he tied Cy Young for 192 wins. He was another guy, a lot of fun to watch. Twice he struck out 20 batters in a 9-inning game, including
At the very beginning of his Red Sox
Right,
tenure, in the very
in
end.
86, right.
Seattle,
he had
I think, was the first one,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, he had a cup of coffee in 84, got hurt in 85. So 86 was, like you said, his first real season. And then the last game he ever pitched for Boston against Detroit. One of the 2 best Red Sox pitchers. It's flipping a coin almost. I told you why I picked Pedro. This guy was an event. Love to watch him pitch. Great Red Sox pitcher.
Roger Clemens, the Rocket. Must-see TV. Striking out guys on a regular bit. I don't know. I mean, he was great. I think I had him at 5 or something like that. But
Yeah. One of the things he shared with a lot of the other guys we've been talking about is he had personality.
yeah,
He can't. He had that meltdown in Oakland where he just came out with eye black and started losing it and throwing.
I remember that.
It just
Yeah.
he.
forgot all about that.
Yeah. He. To start your career with a 20 strikeout game and end it with a 20 strikeout game, just crazy stuff like that. I think that at the time that he retired, and, my inclination is to say that I don't think about steroids when I think about players because I don't know who did it and I don't know who didn't do it. I think he's the greatest right-handed pitcher in American League history. I do. I think that if you look at his body of work, the number of wins, the number of strikeouts, you could make a case for Cy Young, but I'm sorry. Back then, guys were lobbing the ball over the plate. I mean, he was in his era. He was great. Walter Johnson is obviously a tremendous right-handed pitcher. But in the modern era of baseball, let's call it the integrated era when African Americans were permitted to play, shamefully, not until the 1940s. I think Roger Clemens is the best right-handed pitcher in American League history.
I want to double down on that. I agree with that. I think, I picked Pedro based on his peak and the era he pitched in. But Roger Clemens' complete career, I won't belabor it. You made a good argument. I agree. He's the greatest right-handed American League pitcher of all time.
Yep. Hard to argue with.
All right, number 2. I wonder who this could be. Carl Michael Yastrzemski of Long Island, New York. Ken, get us started. I know Yaz is an all-time favorite of yours.
Yeah, of course. How many batting titles? 2 or 3? Something like that?
Several.
MVP, Triple Crown winner, 1967 dear to all our hearts for sure, but 23 seasons maybe?
Yep.
61 to 83.
And just a great all-around player. Left field, obviously, became a first baseman. He was good there too, but you think of him in left field and off the wall and barehanding the ball and throwing guys out. And I also have memories of him in All-Star games where he just seemed to
made
excel.
A tremendous catch.
Yeah, made a tremendous catch.
Washington, I think.
And also I'll never forget the catch he made when Billy Rohr was on the mound.
Mm-hmm.
And it's on the album.
67.
I mean, that catch was unbelievable. I can still picture in my head. He was like, I think he was almost flat to the ground when he made the catch.
Yeah. It was completely behind him. Jim's going to give us all the numbers. I just want to talk about Yaz, the man.
Yeah.
When you went to a Red Sox game in the 60s and 70s and you were a kid, Yaz was the draw. When Yaz would come to the plate, there was an electricity in the air. It was palpable. When the Red Sox were losing, you would sit there and say, "Can we get Yaz up there?" You always felt that you had a chance if Yaz was up. When he ran out to left field, you watched him run out to left field. You literally, you would watch him run out there, and there he is. And when I sat in left field against the wall as a little kid, I would yell, "Yaz, wave to me, wave to me, wave to me." Finally, the whole crowd got into it and said, "Wave to the kid, Yaz." And Yaz finally turns and goes like that. I'll never forget it. Just a dynamic, interesting, grumpy, old dirt dog of a ball player that had a lot of injuries and played through them. His wrist, his arms, he struggled, and it was your struggle. It was like he was part of the family. And he was just, just a tremendous character.
Such a shame he never won a World Series.
In his 1967 last 2 weeks, most baseball people, even stat gurus who ignored personality, say it was probably the greatest 2 weeks that anybody's ever had in baseball.
And it's one of the greatest seasons, right?
Or as Yaz said in his book, I didn't come through most of the time. I came through every time.
Yeah.
Yaz, to me, the numbers are 7 Gold Gloves in left.
Yeah.
Triple Crown, 67. 18-time All-Star. And get this one.
18-time. Wow.
96.5 WAR.
Oh.
96.5 wins above replacement. This guy, the consummate Red Sox. You're right. When you were a kid, it was Yaz. I mean, it was Yaz. And he played 61 to 83. He played on some really bad teams.
Yes.
And he said in 67 it was a lot easier because they were in it. Really tough to do was all those bad teams. I think he won the batting title maybe in 65.
Yeah.
Before 67.
And he won it in 67 and 68, right? Didn't he
and then I think he won it in 1970.
301, 68. Yep.
Yeah, and then he won it again. Yeah.
Yaz went through some tough times with the fans. He was booed at times. They said he didn't hustle. But much beloved by the fans. That was sort of a blip in his career.
Yeah, that was a blip.
Yeah, but I mean, it happened.
It happened.
And '67, never be duplicated. He was and he had a great World Series, which, as you point out, there was no.
He had a good
playoffs.
World Series in '75.
Yeah, he was unbelievable in the World Series. So yeah, he's absolutely number 2 and Hall of Famer and everything.
One more thing about Yaz, real quick. He had a great year in 1965. No one knows it. But if you look it up, it was a pitcher's era.
Yeah.
The mound was like 8 feet off the ground.
Right.
And Yaz had a great year that year. He hadn't really developed his power yet. He worked out, was the Greek guy that he worked out with?
I can't remember who, but he did.
Before
He
the
developed his
1967
power.
season, he showed up with big muscles
He wanted
and
to hit
developed his
homers.
power.
Yep.
All right, number 1.
Big surprise.
No surprise, Theodore Samuel Williams. Widely regarded as the greatest hitter that ever lived. One of the great characters of Boston sports history. Certainly on the Mount Rushmore of the Red Sox, that's for sure. Yeah. And maybe of all of baseball. All of his contemporaries paid homage to him. Never won a championship, got hurt in the what was it? A benefit game they played against the Boston Braves
game to keep themselves ready because the National League, I think, went to a playoff
before the 1946 World
Never
Series.
happened today.
No.
Just an outstanding hitter. Jim, let's give us some numbers.
Yeah.
All right, we want to talk about numbers. These are the numbers.
Yeah.
First of all, the slash line, career, not his best year, career, 344, 482, 634. Okay?
So 482 means roughly 50% of the time he got on base.
He's getting on base.
Yeah.
This is a guy who hit 388 when he was 40 years old. Okay? 6 batting titles. 19-time All-Star. This is a guy who played from 39 to 42 and 46 to 60. This is a guy who missed 4 years of his prime, hit 521 home runs.
Right.
Okay? Now, here's a number that I was just blown away when I saw it. His wins above replacement, 122.
That's a season and a half.
This is the greatest player in Red Sox history. There's no debate. To me, he's one of the 4 greatest athletes in Boston sports history. And I don't want to hear he didn't win a title.
Right.
It was a different era. They could, if David Ortiz, I believe, of his 3 titles, I believe only one they won the division.
Right.
That's a good point.
Yeah, and maybe, So, I mean, he was just phenomenal. And he did get hurt before the 46 World Series. And it crushed him to lose that series. War hero. He flew.
By the way, he fought in 2 wars.
Yeah, Korean War as well.
because he fought in the Korean War.
They called him back.
Yeah.
Which there's that great book about him and John Glenn. He was John Glenn's wingman.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the greatest fly fishermen, I believe, of all time. This was just an extraordinary individual, the greatest Red Sox of all time. And I think the great tribute to him was the 99 All-Star game.
Yeah.
You were there. When all those modern players surrounded the golf cart he walked in on and just were like in awe. And these are all-stars. These are the best of the best. They
were all there.
They
Mays,
were all
Mantle,
famous.
not
'cause
Mantle, but
they were picking
Matt.
the 25 best players or something of all time. And they would just...
Henry Aaron.
Aaron, everybody.
I mean, considered maybe the greatest hitter of all time.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, I always think, I don't know about you, this is always in my mind, how many years did he miss to the service? 5 total?
Well, 4.5, basically.
4.5, I think.
I always think to myself, how many home runs would he have hit at that point each year? Because he was probably averaging around 40.
A little less, I think, at that time.
But
So maybe 35.
So 70, 100. I mean, he would have been in this.
140.
He was probably a 700 home run
Would have
hitter.
got to 7, and record would have been close.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I struggle with stuff like that is he might have got hurt.
That's
you
the
know.
other
I
thing.
know. I
You
know.
know,
but
you
I'm-
just
You don't know.
and he never regretted it. I think he was annoyed to get called back in the Korean War.
The second time.
yeah.
But in the case of World War II, he was proud to go. Johnny
lot of them
Pesky
went.
served. A lot of
Dom
those guys
DiMaggio,
served.
yeah.
Yeah. Only guys that were either too old or 4F for
Bobby Dorr.
some, dietary problem or something
Yeah.
were in the major leagues. Just one of the real, again, I keep talking about things off the field, but one of the real characters, if I've read several bios of him, he liked ordinary people. He did not hang out with the elite. he hung out with firemen and cops and bartenders in
Did he?
Boston.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was a sort of a regular guy, a man's man. Had some struggles with his personal life and marriages and children and
media.
We all know how it all turned out with the his head being frozen, and you just hear crazy stories.
Never wore a tie long before that was popular.
Never wore a tie.
Yep.
So, one of the great characters of the game.
And didn't he go back in and say, I need to not take as much money because he had a bad season?
Yeah, the legend is that he told Tom Yawkey to cut his pay because he didn't have as good a year. Okay, so we're going to now that we've wrapped up the top 20, we're going to mention some players that were nominated but did not make it, and we're going to make this quick. I'm going to give the list, and then each one of us will comment on one or two of these.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm going to go in order of number of votes they got. So the guy that just missed the top 20 was Fred Lynn, Smokey Joe Wood, Johnny Pesky, Dom DiMaggio, Jason Veritek, John Lester, Xander Bogaerts, Mo Vaughn, Jim Lomborg, Reggie Smith, Rico Petrocelli, the great Harry Hooper, and Joe Cronin. Ken, comment on any of those.
Well, I made a notables list when doing this because I could have put 100 guys on this list from, I don't know, I had Rico on it, Mo Vaughn, Lester, George Scott, Reggie Smith, Tony Canigliaro. I had Dick Raditz on my notables list. One of their great all-time relief pitchers, for sure. I had Eck on my notables list. Schilling, Burleson. I mean, they had a lot of notables in my mind. So.
Yeah, my greatest Red Sox player on my top 20 that did not make the cut was Fred Lynn, who finished the highest among all of us.
I had Lynn.
People forget, Rookie of the Year and MVP the same year, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Okay. Had a little dip in 76, came back a lot bigger and stronger. I had a chance, had great years in 77, 8, and 9. Left the Red Sox prior to the 1981 season to the regret of Red Sox fans and him. I spent a whole game with him in the Legends Suite once.
Yeah.
And he told me the whole story. And he said, I really didn't want to leave, and to this day I regret it.
Yeah, his stories. Yeah, the time, he went to California and he was USC grad. Oh, I don't know if he graduated, but player, and it wasn't true that he wanted to go to California. And didn't he say at one time, I would have made the Hall of Fame if I stayed in Boston because of the left field wall? I'll just comment on the guys I had. Xander Bogaerts, great shortstop, 13 to 22, 3 World Series teams. Mo Vaughn, 91 to 98, MVP. Yeah. Harry Hooper I had in the top 25. Won 3 World Series and had 300 stolen bases at a time when that mattered.
Who was your highest player?
So I'm going to get to that last. Okay. Dom DiMaggio, really good player, 298 a lifetime average, 7-time All-Star. The guy, I had him at 12.
Wow.
That didn't make the list was Smokey Joe Wood. 33.6 WAR. 34-win season at the time that mattered. His lifetime ERA with the Red Sox was 1.99. Okay?
Wow.
Can I tell you why I didn't pick him?
Let me finish this stat. Of 157 games, he completed 121. Smokey Joe Wood was also a two-way player. Not nearly as good as Ohtani, but he did play. So I had him up there. No real beef that he didn't make it, but that's all right.
I think he was around forever. I didn't look this up, but I think he was. I think Roger Clemens met him. I think he lived a very, very long life. I didn't pick Smokey Joe Wood for the simple reason that I just decided his career with Boston wasn't long enough.
08 to 15.
Yeah, maybe that was a misjudgment on my part. Because I do think
7 years.
I do think he's a valid.
I look at this 199 ERA.
Yeah, that's amazing.
121 complete games.
Yeah. A big strikeout pitcher, too, wasn't he?
I take your word
check
for that. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's why they call him Smokey.
Smokey.
Right.
That's what I always thought when I was growing up when they talked about Smokey Joe Wood.
I had him over Ruth as a Red Sox, just as a Red Sox pitcher.
Whoa.
I did.
All right, well, that was fun.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
A little disagreement here and there, but nothing too bad. Okay, we hope you enjoyed it. If you would like to comment on our YouTube page about players that you might have picked or where you might have ranked them, we'd love that. Or you don't have to do it. We don't care one way or the other.
And how about this? Can the Red Sox now get some players that we can talk about on a list?
Yeah,
like
there's nobody
this?
on the. I guess you could say Rafael Devers is a potential candidate to this list, but that
Not
remains to
there
be
yet.
seen.
I'll tell
All
you
right,
that
let's
much.
go. Hey, have a great summer. We'll see you soon.
Thank you for watching Boston Sports Nuts. You can find all of our episodes available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. For more information, go to westwoodmediacenter.tv or follow Boston Sports Nuts on Facebook, Instagram, and X.